Monday, July 13th. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Just ask for a moment of silence for the two very good precinct committee people we lost over the weekend. Thank you. Carmen, roll call.
Alexander. Spatelli.
Here.
Venez. Kowinski. There she is, okay. Kowinski.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Emerson.
Here. Here.
Reichels.
Here.
Warple.
Here. Clerk Golick, my apologies. I said Carmen, roll call, but welcome back. Let the record show 9 present, 0 absent. Before we get started with the regular agenda, the mayor's here, and if you'd like to address us, Mayor, on your executive order as far as in other matters as COVID and stuff.
Thank you, Council President. I'm here to answer any questions. Today I informed the Council President. We have 2 employees off the top of my head I know that were infected with COVID-19. Not sure how they were infected. It could have been at work, could have been socially. Some of them have second jobs. It could have been on a second job, but nonetheless, this has happened with too much frequency. At the Sportsplex this weekend, we had a big wrestling tournament, which is great. However, a lot of the parents, believe it or not, are the ones that aren't recognizing social distancing, not wearing masks, putting our employees at risk. So we took a step today in City Hall requiring masks when you're in the social areas of City Hall. So for instance, when you walk into the building, you have to have a mask on. You will not be allowed entrance. We will provide masks for the public that does not have it. And when you are walking into your office, Councilman Warple, when you walk into the doors of the council office, you have the option to take off the mask at that point, okay? When I go into my office, I can take it off. When I'm going in, if I go into the council office to speak to Susan, I would have the mask on in a situation like that because we don't want to put Susan at harm, just like I don't want to put my staff at harm. So that was a big step. It applies to all buildings, including the water department, sanitary district, the marina, all public buildings. I was listening to a podcast today talking about when you're indoors, you're 20 times more likely to catch COVID than when you're outside. So obviously being outside, we see a lot of baseball games being played. In fact, this weekend in Hammond, we had 150 teams playing baseball in the city of Hammond. It's a lot harder when you're outdoors. We're still trying to recognize social distancing, obviously, but when you're outdoors, it's a lot harder, according to the experts, to catch this than when you're indoors. So I think it's an appropriate move. I hope the council agrees. We're starting to see things build up, and I just thought it was appropriate. So other than that, I don't have any other topics unless the council has questions for me.
Does anybody on the council have a question for the mayor?
Mayor,
Councilwoman Alexander.
are we planning to do anything further, or should we look into doing something further to keep our citizens safe? I understand we all get emails saying don't make it a mandate for people to wear a mask. Are we going to put out maybe some videos or something to encourage people to wear masks? I know that the city of Packer has already put it in place for their city, dealing with public places, restaurants, businesses, and things such as that. I can say for myself, I've went into a couple of businesses and I've talked to owners myself saying that you should think about if you're going to keep your customers safe and your employees. So maybe that's something that we may not have to make it as a mandate, but make it as a suggestion for now. But I know our cases have went up another 1,100 cases. We're at about 913 now for the city.
I lost a lot of what you said,
Yeah,
Councilwoman.
There's someone has a TV on or something, it sounds like, but I think the question was about
Are we going to take this a step further and require,
mandatory, yeah.
like in Indianapolis? I think that's something we should all talk about, council and the mayor. That's a pretty big step. I felt comfortable making the call in regards to city buildings. That's a big step forward. That's something we need to talk about. I don't really think it's appropriate for cities to do that personally. I think that's the kind of thing that should be done as a statewide policy, as a national policy. I think it gets confusing when you're in Hammond, you wear a mask, but then you drive to Highland and it's not necessary there, and then you pass into Griffith and you don't have to wear it there, but then you head into Maryville and you got to wear a mask. That's where it starts getting confusing for the public. I think that's a bigger decision than just the mayor making it on his own, Councilwoman. So if we're interested in doing something like that, I suggest we go through an ordinance form or some type of resolution that we could all agree on. I just didn't feel comfortable making that call myself, Councilwoman, so I appreciate the advice.
Just wanted to know, what was your thoughts towards that? And I know we're gonna be meeting and things like that, but just, as we continue to go on, that we're looking at, helping our city and making sure our city's safe. I understand that you have some people that are saying that if the governor doesn't mandate it, we don't have to do it. But if your city is saying that, you're looking at your city as a totality, as a whole, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for our residents, even if no one else is thinking about them.
Right. I appreciate your advice a lot, so. And also, I wanted to point out, we had an unfortunate incident that happened last week. Councilwoman worked with the city administration on it. It was last weekend. It was a post that doesn't need to be repeated on a building in North Hammond. And I want to thank Councilwoman Katrina for giving me a picture of it. And I want to point out, I found out about this graffiti on Saturday night, and one of our staff members by Sunday morning had already knocked it out. So I wanted to say thank you to the Councilwoman for pointing that out to me. I don't really want to give it much more attention than that, but the system works when we work together. So thank you very much, Councilwoman.
No problem. Thank you for getting it taken care of.
Are there any further questions or comments for the mayor? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Item number 3, reading of the minutes.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from June 22nd, 2020, and be placed on file, please.
Second.
The motion's been made by Councilman Spitali and seconded by Councilman Reichels to place the minutes on file. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4, approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Councilman
make a
Reichels.
motion we approve claims, beginning with claim dated 6/25 of 2020 and ending with claim dated 7/8 of 2020, claim number 2949 through claim number 3248 inclusive, in the total amount of $20,535,365.72.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve and accept the claims by Councilman Reichels, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Kalwinski, Torres,
I'd take that as a yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson, is that a yes?
Yeah, he said yeah. It looked like it.
Yes.
Yes, he said it.
Reichels,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
and what about
Councilman Torres, were you there?
Yes.
Okay, and Councilman Kowinski?
No.
Was that a yes or a no?
No.
Let the record show 8 in favor, 1 opposed. Item number 5, public hearings. There are none. Item number 6, communications. Are there any communications? Are there any communications? Communications are closed. Item 7, committee reports.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
yes, the Finance Committee will be bringing out 20-10. And then I wanted to address the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. As I stated at the last meeting, we never expected this situation to continue as long as it has, and we're having difficulty finding places to meet. The schools are closed, some of the other venues are closed. Even if school does open in the fall, they're not going to allow any outside organizations into the schools. So we're kind of scrambling to find some places to meet. But in the meantime, probably we'll have an announcement at the next council meeting of another Zoom Crime Watch meeting that all of the directors of the groups will participate, in addition to some of the community policing officers. I would like to announce that the Hessville Crime Watch is going to meet this Thursday, July 16th, at the Jean Shepherd Center. That begins at 7 p.m. Be sure to wear a mask. And let me see, the South Holman Avenue Neighborhood Watch is making arrangements for a meeting in September. That would be September 24th at Trinity Lutheran Church on the corner of 173rd and Holman, beginning at 6:30 p.m. So we'll keep everyone posted, because community is not just about me, it's about us.
Thank you. Are there any other committee reports? Are there any other committee reports? Committee reports are now closed. Item number 8, ordinances, third and final reading.
Ordinance 20-10, sponsored by Councilwoman Venez. An ordinance authorizing the City of Hammond, Lake County, Indiana, to make temporary loans to meet current running expenses for the use of the general fund and Park and Recreation Fund in the anticipation of current taxes levied in the year 2019 and electable in the year 2020. Authorizing the issuance of tax anticipation warrants to evidence such loans and shall of such warrants to the Hammond Local Public Improvement Bond Bank, and appropriating and pledging the taxes to be received in such funds to the punctual payment of such warrants, including the interest thereon.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
yes, I move for final passage of 20-10.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Venez, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
As was discussed in the committee meeting tonight, I don't know if any of the public was listening in on that, but we also discussed this at the last council meeting. This is in advance on the tax collections from the bond bank. It's approximately 80% of the taxes that we anticipate collecting based on the 2019 figures. Let me see. Our controller mentioned to us this evening during the committee meeting that Huntington Bank has agreed to this advance. with an interest rate of 1.85% on $12,634,000. $10,436,000 for the general fund and $2,198,000 for park and recreation fund.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kalinsky.
I've been on the council for now 17 years, and what's happening today never should have gotten to this point. City of Hammond has been receiving $33 million up to $40 million for the past 20 years. And we're going to a bond bank to pay our bills. I think that looking back in hindsight, a rainy day fund right now, had it passed 10, 11 years ago, would have about $35 to $40 million in it, sitting there for a situation like this. The city is in crisis. The city's been in crisis for 10 years. The administration's been siphoning district dollars for that long and longer to balance the general budget. That's a crisis. That's a problem. For those of you too young to remember, the gaming agreement was created and was adamant about never using gaming dollars to balance the budget. Now, the districts are lucky to get half their gaming dollars. The rest of it you vote to go to the general budget. And I heard the mayor talk about investing about $100 million in parks since he's been the mayor. I believe that we're getting close to $100 million that's been siphoned out of the districts over the last 10 years to go to the general fund, to the general budget. I think you have to think about that. I think that saying yes, carte blanche, to the claims is enabling. I think that saying yes to this bond is enabling. I think we have to take a course that looks at the hard stuff. We're in crisis. We've been in 10 years. See what happens when you don't have gaming money to bail it out. You're going to a bond bank. This is not how you run a city. This is not how you use $33 million to $40 million a year and then you're broke and you can't pay your bills. It's a problem. We all need to come together and figure this out. There are some hard decisions to make to get out of this crisis, and it's not going to happen by just moving gaming dollars, especially when there aren't any, to balance the budget. So I'm in a position not to support this right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I know maybe I shouldn't join the discussion, but I think it's time we look at the gaming ordinance and maybe redistribute the money so we can have a rainy day fund and come up with a way that we can get projects done that cost $2 and $3 and $4 million. And I'm willing to relook at the gaming ordinance to make that happen. Mayor?
Mr. President, I've been mayor for the same amount of time that Councilman Mark has been a councilman. I've never heard him vote against a claim until today. Never. And I've never heard him propose a budget cut. In fact, I had to beg him 3 times for him to vote for the health department, a simple $1 million redundant savings years ago. Councilman Mark is full of crap. Councilman Mark is trying to redefine history, and I'm not going to stand here and take it, okay? Councilman Mark's trying to change the topic during a pandemic right now. The fact is, he's one of the councilmen that pushes hardest to make sure that every penny goes to the districts and doesn't go to support the budget. Councilman Mark, you're on the Hammond City Council. Your job is to balance the budget. This is a budget you approve every year. If you think there's cuts in there that could cut our $14 million out of our budget, feel free. The budget's coming up, Councilman Mark. Let's hear what you got.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further
The
discussion?
bottom line is, Mr. President,
Go ahead, Mayor.
if this tax anticipation warrant isn't passed because we anticipated revenues in a budget, I believe it was 9-0. Maybe it was 8-1, I'm not sure. But in that budget, when we passed it, we didn't anticipate there was going to be a pandemic. And there's a pandemic. We didn't anticipate the casino boats would be shut down for 3 months. And there is. We're not the only city, town, county, or state that's floating tax anticipation warrants right now. We're not. This is a pandemic, Councilman Kowinski. And you've been on the council for a long time. If you got cuts, let's hear them, Councilman Mark. Why don't you talk about them?
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I agree with Councilman Kalwinski on one thing, and that is that hard decisions need to be made. And it's going to be up to all of us to make those decisions. As far as the rainy day fund goes, I remember sitting in the audience at the time that rainy day fund was introduced. The truth of the matter is, it couldn't be sold to the people. I remember one of the council people saying, I'm going to give up some of my district money and take one for the team. I think not. So there wasn't an appetite for it when it was introduced, and it couldn't be sold. I would like to point out also that the last time we took an advance on our tax collections was 2013. I think that speaks to the job that we have done in moving forward to 2020. You know, it's just kind of funny that we're in the midst of a crisis. Councilman Kalwinski is right. We're in the midst of a crisis. Who in the world ever anticipated a crisis of this nature? Who in the world anticipated that the governor would extend the date for the property taxes and that we wouldn't be getting our money from the state in a timely fashion? But yet, nobody in the city of Hammond, there hasn't been an employee that I've heard of that didn't get a paycheck. We all got a paycheck. What happens if we didn't get a paycheck for 3 months, or the employees didn't get a paycheck for 3 months? You're right, Councilman. It is a crisis, and it's extraordinary circumstances that we need to make some adjustments, and I look forward to the conversation of making some of those hard decisions and re-examining the gaming dollars. Thank you. Council
President.
Mayor?
I also agree. I think the way we distribute our gaming revenue is antiquated. I think it's got to be taken a look at, and I want to talk about that with the council people so that we can get more projects done, okay? And this $12.5 million tax anticipation warrant will be paid off by the end of the year with the property tax revenue that's going to be paid into the city. This is, a lot of governments are doing this right now because of the pandemic. It's not ideal, but like Councilwoman Janet just said, we didn't anticipate being in a pandemic. We didn't anticipate people not paying their property taxes, not generating any, revenue at the sportsplex or at the Little League fields, and the casino being shut down for 3 months, completely unanticipated. Do we need a rainy day fund? Sure. But that's going to take away from the district councilman, and I have a feeling I know how Mark's going to feel about that, because he's one of the council people that's very unrealistic and pushes hard regardless. It's one of the reasons we're here in the first place.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
No.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Reichels,
Yes.
Warpo,
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 8 in favor, 1 opposed. That,
2011 ever brought up? Hold on, Mr. President.
that concludes the final passage and adoption.
Okay, this is final then. Okay. Mr. President, that concludes the introduction of, the ordinances for final passage.
Okay, item number 9, introduction of ordinances.
Ordinance 20-11, sponsored by Councilman Reichels. An ordinance establishing inspections, conflict of interest rules, and reporting procedures.
Mr. President,
Councilman Reichels.
I move we pass ordinance 20-11 on first and second reading and scheduled to vote at our next meeting.
Motion's been made to pass ordinance 2011 on first and second reading with no committee assignment. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Reichels, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
President,
Mr. President,
Councilman Torres.
okay. I have a question on section 1, and the second page, where it says certificate of occupancy. Is that referring to rental certificates or what? Permits?
Brian?
A certificate of occupancy is issued by the building department when a particular development has completed its construction and that the user that is allowed to open up the store, for example, and it's not specific to the rentals properties at all.
Okay, so a project is complete in a building or whatever it is. Okay.
Okay, motion's been made for first and second reading and no committee assignment. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
while Brian is at the mic, can he just explain this for our residents, what this ordinance is pertaining to exactly, so that they know?
It is my understanding from discussions with Attorney Smith that there was a state law change last year in which the conflict of interest concept was introduced when it comes to the issuance of not only building permits and the list that is specifically in this ordinance, but also when it came to the Plan Commission's approval of rezonings and BZA actions and all the other items that are under the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission. As indicated previously, the component that affected the Plan Commission, that was already adopted at the end of last year because that was an amendment to the zoning ordinance. This is specific to the issuance of permits that are under the purview of the Department of Inspections. It sets up that when an employee has a conflict of interest, when they're reviewing a particular permit, that they have to declare that conflict of interest, report it to the chief of that department, the chief of inspection of that department, and then that report is then given to the city attorney. So we have it on record that there is a conflict of interest. If there is that conflict of interest, then another employee is supposed to be assigned to that review of that particular permit or project.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor for it to pass on first and second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
President Werpel, that concludes the introduction of ordinances.
Thank you, Clerk Gulick. Item number 10, resolutions.
Item A, Resolution 20R-13. Petitioners are the Hammond Plan Commission and the Hammond Redevelopment Commission. Sponsors by Councilman Kowinski. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Hammond, Indiana, determining and approving Plan Commission Resolution 2020-01 as a written order approving a Redevelopment Commission Resolution number 04-2020 as an amending declaratory resolution that amended and modified the boundaries of the state line allocation area within the Marina Development Area to remove certain real property from said allocation area provisions of the declaratory resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for passage of 20R13.
Second.
Motion's been made for passage of 20R13 by Councilman Kowinski, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
20R13 and 20R14 are actually connected. One of them removed 3 parcels out of the allocation area for the state line power plant because it's no longer there, and the other one places 1 parcel back that belongs to redevelopment that wraps around the data center in the allocation area. These moves are necessary to move the base of allocation area back to 0 now that the data center is identified in the allocation area and not the state, the power plant, state line power plant. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander. Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kowinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Reichels.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes. Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Item B, resolution number 20R-14, sponsored by the Hammond Plan Commission and the Redevelopment Commission. The council sponsor is Councilman Kowinski. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Hammond, Indiana, determining and approving a Plan Commission Resolution 2020-02 as a written order approving a Redevelopment Commission Resolution number 05-2020 as an amending declaratory resolution that amended and modified the boundaries of the state line allocation area within the Marina Development to expand such allocation area provisions for certain real property previously removed from the allocation area by amending declaratory resolution number 04-2020.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
so 20R13 was removing the 3 parcels out of the allocation area. 2014 is putting 1 back in and having the base reset to 0 for the TIF district or the allocation area that the data center now sits in. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion?
Second.
I thought the motion was made by Councilman Kowinski and seconded by Councilman Spitali. Okay. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Second was made by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines. Vines. Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres. Torres,
He mouthed yes.
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Reichels,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
And Vanessa is here, yes.
Let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
President Warple, that concludes the resolutions.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Item number 11, new and unfinished business. Does anyone have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I too want to go on record that the Reichels floor that was building and on a metal container is wrong, appalling, and beyond reproach, and I'm sorry that such a thing could happen in the first district. Along with that, I've got, because we're not together in person and I can't give you this handout, I'm going to walk you through this. I'll have you read that, and then I've got pictures from a resident regarding Pulaski Park. This too is graffiti on the Pulaski Park Casimir Pulaski Monument. This was put there a couple weeks before the racial slur on the building, and there have been other graffiti on park signs and also on stop signs in the recent months. So there is, our district seems, and especially our neighborhood, seems to be getting hit pretty hard by somebody or bodies who want to create unrest. Also, regarding maintenance of parks, does your park look like this in your district? That's the swimming pool at Pulaski Park last week. Still the swimming pool. Swimming pool. The deep bay of the swimming pool. The ice rink. Another picture of the ice rink. Tennis courts. Those were sent by a resident to me. I believe late last week, some of those issues were resolved, but has anything like that gotten that far away in any of your districts regarding maintenance provided by the city? It's a rhetorical question. I just wanted to let you in on it, and I also will be putting those packets in your mailboxes so you can see closer what maintenance at Pulaski Park has looked like this year so far. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business? Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President?
Was that Councilman Tyler?
Yes.
Councilman Tyler.
I just want to welcome the 12 new firefighters into our fire department. It seems like we have a good group of individuals, including the first woman firefighter in our city in close to 30 years, I believe. So I want to welcome all those men and women as they join such a great group of individuals who serve and protect our city. And also want to announce that at the Hammond Sportsplex, there is a youth soccer 4-on-4 league that's going to be starting up on July 21st between 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds. So if you're interested in that, please call the Sportsplex or visit the website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
just want to echo that Leon Repay from the first district, a city employee, precinct committee man for a long, long time. I have known him since we went to high school together at George Rogers Clark. He's a good friend. He had a zest for living. He enjoyed working. He enjoyed his downtime, and whatever he did, he gave it his all. And he'll be missed in the district, in the neighborhood, and I'm sure in all the circles that he moved in. May he rest in peace. And my sympathies to the Reed family. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just state that Sandra Cordage, who was a second district councilwoman and I think was a founder of Crime Watch originally with Jake and others, passed away yesterday as well. So thank you for the condolences. Mayor?
I wanted to respond to Councilman Mark in regards to the pool at Pulaski Park, which is what we're talking about. Every council person knows what's going on with the pool at Pulaski Park. Councilman Kalwinski knows what's going on with the pool at Pulaski Park. But there's people that are watching right now that probably have no idea what's going on with the pool at Pulaski Park, so I want to talk about it. Since Councilman Mark wants to show pictures, let's go ahead and talk about what happened. We had a park bond, and we had 4 pools that we were going to shut down. We struck a deal in the first district that we were going to design a new pool, an upgraded pool, and then we were shutting down the 3 other pools across the city. I made a deal with Councilman Emerson, where Councilman Emerson got $2 million plus money that I put in, plus money that he put in into his park, and we upgraded Edison Park. It's gorgeous. We made a deal with Councilman Reichels, where Councilman Reichels put money in to retire his pool. Councilman Warple kindly shared money with that project in the 6th district as well. The park bond put in money, and I put in money as well. Hessville Park is gorgeous and heavily used. I made a deal with Councilman Higgs at the time, who put in $1 million for the project that you see at MLK Park. I put in around $1 million. The park bond paid for $2 million, and look at what we did to MLK Park. We made a deal with Councilman Mark where we were going to redesign this pool, and we're going to put some money in from the park bond. I'm going to put some money in, and Councilman Mark's going to put money in, and he steadfastly refused to put a penny into that project. He would not put a penny into that project. He didn't want the pool redone. He wanted it the way it was always done, and it was a violation of ADA. And how could I do business with the council if I treat Councilman Mark separately than I treat all the rest of the councilmen? I'm going to say, sorry, Reichels, thanks for your $1 million. Thanks, Councilman Higgs, for your $1 million. Now, Councilman Berry, thanks, Councilman Emerson, for your $1 million. Councilman Kalwinski is special. He doesn't have to pay anything for his project. I dug in, said, absolutely not, Councilman Kalwinski. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to give you a free ride. He's had probably over $100 million of money from the Port Authority spent in his district. He had $35 million that we won, this administration won, spent in the first district, and he wants a free ride, in addition, being treated separately than all the other councilmen. So that pool's been sitting there in limbo. I agree. The pool's in limbo. I was hoping Councilman Kalwinski would come around and say, you know what, I want to do just like Councilman Reichels did, just like the 3rd District Councilman did, just like Councilman Emerson, but no, he wants to be special. And now we're in a situation where even if the pool was redone, it wouldn't be open this year anyway. So we're just going to fill it in. It's a failure. I put a bunch of money into 2nd District, into Irving Park, money that I was going to put into the 1st District. I made a great deal with Councilman Torres, and his park is gorgeous, and we're going to keep building on it. But Councilman Mark steadfastly refused to put a single penny into that project, and it failed because of that. I have credibility. Look around the city. Look at all the projects that we did with that park bond. The only one that didn't work was the 1st District because the councilman wanted to be special. That's why it looks like it does. It's not going to look like that again because we're going to fill it in.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Kowinski.
Not to belabor the point, but the mayor lives in some twisted reality. I've never objected to giving money to the pool. I can't even schedule meetings with him or the engineering firm to move on it, and now we don't have any money to put in it. So we're in a tough spot now, but it's not because I don't want to give money to the pool. I'm happy to give money to the pool. It's a passion here in this district. I've always been open to it. There's a distortion of facts here. Thank you.
Mr. President, Every council member,
Mayor.
every council member knows what the story is, okay? Every council member that's sitting up there knows how this went down. Every one of you knows. If I would have given in to Councilman Mark, there's no way I would have been able to do business with the 8 other councilmen that are reasonable. That's a fact. By the way, Councilman Mark, you have a beach about a mile up the street, and it's packed. So maybe some of our constituents could go there. It's a beautiful beach right by the Hammond Marina, and it's open with lifeguards, and it's packed. But by the way, we just did Irving Park. We just did the ribbon cutting last week. Councilman Torres and I partnered up. Councilman Torres put in money from the 2nd District. We put in money, and look at that park. It's gorgeous.
Distortions.
Councilman Kowinski, do you have something?
Just want to say distortions of fact, that's all. I'm done.
Is there any new and unfinished business? Any more?
Mr. President.
Councilman Torres.
No, it's Emerson.
Oh, Councilman Emerson, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Pete's lips are moving again now.
Can you hear me now? I keep cutting in and out.
Councilman
Can you hear
Emerson,
me?
Councilman Emerson had spoke up first, Councilman Torres. Councilman Emerson?
Yes, I too would like to comment on Mr. Ripe. You know, I'm going to miss him. You know, I see him a million times a year, and our running joke was I always would ask him to play one-on-one. I said I would always beat you, and if you knew him at all, he's a very tall man, was a very tall man, and I am 5'10" and a half, and that half is very important, and I can't play basketball. But, and I don't know that he could, but we had this running joke. So, you know, prayers to him and his family, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you. Councilman Torres?
Mr. President.
Councilman
Mr.
Torres.
President. Mr. President.
Councilman Torres?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make a comment on Urban Park. We did have ribbon cutting last week and got a lot of compliments on it. I do want to thank the mayor. He did contribute most of the money, and the improvements that we got are unique to other parks like the Futsal, and we're going to have a unique dog park that is still to be built, but I was told it's going to be added on at the end of this of August. But the constituency I really appreciate the improvement, and it hadn't been improved from my understanding since the 1940s. So thank you, Mayor, for your contribution.
Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
I just want to say kudos to Councilman Torres and past Councilman Mr. Higgs and Councilman Tyler on sure that we're going to do what's right with our parks. And kudos to Mayor for donating towards those, because our parks are starting to look amazing. And just to drive past MLK Park and see the kids playing at the splash pad, see people walking around a park, see people looking at the monument at MLK is actually refreshing from growing up. So that was a big deal in the 3rd District. And I wanted to say kudos to that because it looks absolutely amazing. And just seeing the kids and the parents' faces as they play. Some are definitely social distancing. And as we get back to things, not to beat a dead horse, just as a reminder to people, wear your mask. As you protect yourself, you're actually helping to protect others.
Mr.
Thank
President.
you. Just for the record, I would like to just state real quick that, Mayor, you said I gave $300,000 for Hessville Park. I don't consider that my money. It was it's the city's money, and it's our job as the fiscal body to help you make the decisions, like you said, on the best way to spend it. And just me personally, I get aggravated when I refer to it as my money.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm a resident of the 5th District, and my son, Tommy, uses Hessville Park in the 6th District 4 or 5 times a week. So I appreciate you going across the lines like you did, Councilman Warple, and helping Councilman Reichels get that project done. It's gorgeous what happened at Hessville Park. Councilman Emerson, it's over a year old now, but it's still gorgeous, and I drive by there all the time, and kids are always using the gated, no, not the gated, the walled-in soccer fields, and Edison Park looks special. And thank you, Councilman Torres, for Irving Park, and we're not done yet at Irving Park. Councilman Torres wants a splash pad, and I'll be honest with you, I think that's a good goal to have for that. It's close to MLK Park, but really different neighborhoods altogether. I think it's totally doable, and I think that's something we should look at. And I agree, Councilwoman Katrina, MLK Park's special, and I'm really glad that park, with all the quotes from Dr. King and the splash pad and all the work that we did with the walking path and everything. I'm really proud of those projects. And I know that in North Hammond, I know what Pulaski Pool looks like, and it's a failure between 2 people, Councilman Mark and myself. It's a failure. And, you know, we had to move on at one point, and we've moved on. And I said, you know what? Irving Park's right down the road. Let's focus our attention there. And Councilman Torres is the happy recipient because we got to get it done. And I tell you what, I want Irving Park to shine. And Pulaski Park, I want to remind the residents of North Hammond, I put $6 million into Pulaski Park when I first became mayor, and it's still pretty damn nice. So just because the pool doesn't look like Councilman Mark wants it to look, it's still a really nice park that we put millions of dollars into when I became mayor. So thank you, Mr. President.
Is there any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Did you catch who said that? Who?
Barry Tyler.
Councilman Tyler.
yes. I would just like to remind everyone to fill out their census. I know pretty much every single council person, as well as other department heads across the city, are working with our local census representatives to get our completion rate up. I think right now, on average, we're at like 60% for an entire city. Would love to see that number skyrocket over the next couple months as the deadline approaches in October. It's really easy to fill out the information, and you can do so online at 2020census.gov. It takes about, I would say, like 10 minutes, maybe 15 at max to complete it all. So I would just encourage all the residents who are watching to take it yourself, spread the word so that everyone living in our city will go out and complete it.
Thank you. Is there any other new and unfinished business?
President,
Councilman Emerson.
I just want to piggyback on what Councilman Tyler just said. It's very important because of the funding that we may or may not get. We could lose a congressional seat if people don't fill out the census. So it's very important that we do that, especially with the pandemic and everything else that's going on. So it's very simple. We did it online, and if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Thank you. Is there any other new and unfinished business? Is there any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President, one more time.
Mayor.
Just to echo on the census, we know Hammond's participation rate is it was in the 60s, maybe it's in the low 70s by now, which isn't good enough. We know the neighborhoods that aren't responding like they responded 10 years ago, and the census takers are going to begin knocking on doors, and we're going to actually have workers from Public Works go out door to door and put it on people's door just to remind them, if you're watching this meeting right now, we need you to respond to the census either on the internet or through the mail. You'll get an actual mail piece. I took care of it right away on my smartphone, and I never got the mail piece because our family was counted already. If you're getting mail from the census, you haven't answered them yet, and we need you to. Your city needs you to. So thank you very much for reminding everybody.
Is there any other new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is closed. We only have one member of the audience. Laura, you didn't sign. Do you want to speak? Is there anybody on the internet? Does the administrator see anybody on the internet? I'll take that as a no, and I'll make a motion to accept the motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made by Councilman Reichels, seconded by Councilwoman Alexander. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.